guys. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. So, nandito tayo ngayon for this second episode of your What's Up Doc. This is our Q&A session for Friday. So, I hope ready na yung question nyo. Are you all there? Kamusta na po? So, yung topic natin ngayon is about low carbohydrate diet or low carb lifestyle. So, ano bang ginagawa kapag naglo-low carb lifestyle, no? Kung kapag naglo-low carb lifestyle tayo, yung tinitingnan lang natin is yung carbohydrate. Hindi tayo masyadong nag-iisip on proteins and fats. Understand na yung advice na ito is something that is quite new. Medyo popular siya, but actually, hindi siya ganun kabago because this diet is actually have been in our medical history since 1920s or very early on. But natabunan lang siya. It was in 1920s actually low carbohydrate diet and ketogenic diet specifically. Yun na yung mga ginagawang parang gamot for children with epilepsy. And also, before the discovery of insulin, yung low carb na diet, basically, mataas yung protina at mataas yung healthy fat content, pero yung carbohydrate, tulad ng pasta, rice, bread, nililimit yan. Pati root crops, yun, nililimit yon. Yun ang ginagawang dietary management o yung sinasabi nating gamot na hindi na kailangan ng gamot. Just basic change in lifestyle such as eating, lilimitahan mo lang yung carbohydrate intake mo and it will already help control diabetes. Kasi with diabetes kasi yung sugar sa katawan tumataas na hindi na kaya ng body natin store as fats. Yes, yung glucose, yung blood sugar na kinakain natin kapag nasobrahan, especially na wala tayong masyadong physical activities, hindi tayo masyadong nag-exercise at saka hindi yung trabaho natin mostly sa office lang or sa bahay lang or di kaya hindi masyadong nakakapagod hindi tulad ng mga blue collar jobs workers natin like nagko-construction or yung mga nagtatrabaho sa farm na hard labor talaga. So yung tendency natin, it will pile up. So that's why kung hindi ganon yung lifestyle mo at hindi ka naman bodybuilder at hindi ka rin yung high intensity interval training na mga exercise, yung mga ganon, actually, you don't need so much sugar. Meron ngang guidelines with the Nutrition Coalition and it's a standard medical practice but hindi lang talaga siya na advocate or na practice masyado, but it states there is no minimum requirement sa carbohydrate intake. Anong ibig sabihin ng walang minimum requirement sa carbohydrate intake? Ibig sabihin nun, hindi siya hindi siya essential. Yes, kailangan natin ng sugar or glucose sa ating katawan, but hindi natin ito kailangan kainin. Bakit? Because we have mechanisms in our body na pwede lang siyang mag-produce ng kanyang sariling sugar kapag kailangan na niya. Yes, it can produce from the proteins that we eat and the fats that we eat. Fats not directly as sugar but in the form of triglycerides. Yung triglycerides, yun yung sinasabi natin na akala natin bad fats kasi nga yun yung palutang-lutang sa ating katawan. But actually, hindi siya bad in a sense na masama siya. It only gets bad if it's not being used kapag hindi siya nagagamit. And ano ang mga instances na hindi nagagamit yung mga taba na kinakain natin? Hindi nagagamit or nakokonsumo as energy yung mga taba if sinasabayan natin ito ng carbohydrates o nung kanin, nung desserts, yung asukal, at saka yung bread and pasta, lahat sila. And most root crops. Kasi akala natin yung sugar yung matatamis lang. But no, yung sugar, actually, matamis siya kapag table sugar. Pero, yung mga rice, yung oatmeal, kahit yung tinapay na sobrang tabang, sobrang bland yung taste, when it is processed already in our system, the moment it is done, processed na sa ating liver, kapag nasa bloodstream na natin, it will go there, it will be there, it will stay there as sugar. Yes, magiging blood sugar pa din sila. So, root crops, including yung ating kamote, especially yung patatas, actually, minsan kapag nag-order tayo sa restaurant, no, sinasabi na minsan hindi tayo nagra-rice and we're so proud already na hindi tayo nagra-rice, yung ano natin, yung ina-exchange lang natin kahit mashed potato na lang or kaya french fries or kaya hash brown. But actually, with glycemic index, yung glycemic index, yun yung parang level ng increase ng blood sugar, yung pag-shoot up ng blood sugar sa katawan natin the moment you ingest something, the moment na kinakain mo. So, yung glycemic index, somewhat, meron siyang kasabay na insulin index. Kasi, hindi sa kada pagtaas ng sugar mo, hindi equivalent na tataas din yung insulin mo. Meron ngang ibang pagkain na yung glycemic index nila pahinay-hinay tulad ng brown rice as compared to white rice, pareho silang mataas na glycemic index. Mas mababa lang yung brown rice. Kaya sinasabi nila na medyo mas healthier siya. But it's actually, I don't agree that it's healthier. As compared to white rice, yes, it is a little better. But if this is the insulin shoot up, no? Kapag yung white rice, diretso, taas. But yung brown rice, hinay-hinay, hinay-hinay. But eventually, mag-shoot up din. So, if you really want to control your sugar, if you really want to control your insulin response, kasi nalalaman natin ngayon that it's not just about sugar, but its effect on insulin. The rise in insulin is the one actually that is causing all the damage. It is causing all the damage in a sense na kasi kinakain natin siya every day. When in fact, in nature, in our normal way of life, hindi natin supposedly nakakain or naspa-spike yung insulin natin all year round. Once a year lang tayo nag-i-insulin. I mean, once a year lang tayo, by nature, tumataas yung insulin natin. So, kailan yon? Kailan yung moment na yon na parang sinasabi natin allowed yung increase in insulin? So, that moment is actually during harvest season. So, tayo, for us here who lives in the Philippines, kailan ba yung harvest season natin? No? It is usually during summer. Kaya nga lahat ng piyesta, summer, di ba? Mga Flores de Mayo, at saka mga almost yung mga Barrio Fiesta, it's always in summer because that's the natural na harvest season. Yun lang ang panahon na yung katawan natin allowed or sanay to eat a lot of sugar. In general kasi, yung lahat ng sugar na yon, we are supposed to store that para meron tayong taba. So it's okay to gain weight during summer. But supposedly, after summer, we have the whole year, the remaining 3/4 of the year, na dapat i-burn natin yon. But yun yung nakasanayan ng katawan natin for the last 2 million years. That's how we evolved. Our ancestors evolved. However, nung nagkaroon na ng agricultural revolution, na marunong na tayong mag-raise ng animals, mag-domesticate ng animals, marunong na tayong magtanim, we've discovered grains, and worst, we've discovered yung GMO na pwede tayong mag-harvest all year round. Kahit walang fertilizers, available na sila. So, anong nangyari sa atin? That is also the reason why during the last centuries, no, of our lifespan, nagkaroon ng mga sakit na hindi natin nakikita noon. So, ano-ano ang mga sakit na ito? So, these illness include, hypertension, diabetes, toothache, yes, tooth decay. Alam nyo ba na yung mga fossils, yung mga fossil fuels na nakita ng mga caveman, hunter and gatherer natin na mga ancestors, yung mga ipin nila, sobrang sobrang sabi natin hindi maganda in a sense na parang na hindi sila perfect yung the way we have it now na naka-braces na pantay-pantay. But they are so strong. Walang cavities, walang tooth decay because tooth decay is actually a byproduct of sugar and carbohydrates. Kasi yung mga bakterya, hindi naman yan kumakain ng taba. Hindi yan kumakain ng protina. Hindi yan kumakain ng karne. But yung kinakain nila are just sugar. They feed on sugar. Kaya every time yung mga bata na sinasabihan natin to brush their teeth, it's not just for cleansing or hygiene, but it's more on dapat removal of sugar that is there, especially in the creases. That's why I myself being an ENT specialist and also we protect oral hygiene, yung hygiene sa baba natin. We promote doing dental flossing. Yes, dental flossing. Other than toothbrushing, important talaga to do dental flossing. Kasi yung mga creases ng mga ipin natin, that's the time, that's the area na kailangan tagang linisin kasi dyan dumidikit yung mga sugar. And tooth decay is just the most common, most proven, most well-studied na effect ng sugar. But actually, sobrang dami. Even other illness na akala natin hindi related to sugar. Akala natin obesity lang, yung pagtaba lang. Akala natin yung hypertension lang, kahit yung diabetes lang. But actually, we are learning now na marami palang mga sakit na na dulot ng elevated and chronic intake ng sugar. Yes, we have to emphasize na chronic intake ng sugar. And ano yung chronic intake na yon? Rice, 3 times a day. After kumain ng main meal, may prutas pa. After, nagso-soft drinks pa. Tapos ano pa, yung panghuli, may dessert pa. So that's actually so much sugar. If you think about it, yung plate mo, yung meal time mo, parang maybe 60 to 80% all carbohydrates. So we have to lower that. We have to lower our carbohydrate intake. So ano ba ang paglo-lower ng carbohydrate intake? So we have removal. We have this group in Facebook, what we call Life Without Rice. Yun yung Facebook group na sinimula namin to promote kasi for us Filipinos and Asians, rice eater tayo. Sinasabi nga ng karamihan, the moment na first time nilang na the moment that they heard about it for the first time, sinasabi nila, that is impossible. I cannot live without rice. Kasi ito yung nakasanayan ko. Ito yung nakasanayan ng katawan natin. Yes, yun yung nakasanayan natin for this lifetime. But actually, yung katawan natin, pareho lang. Hindi nagkalayo sa caveman. Hindi nagkalayo sa mga hunter and gatherer natin na mga ancestors. That's why we have to live somewhat mimic kung anong ginagawa ng mga ancestors natin. That is removal or limiting our carbohydrate intake. So if you have questions about it, like for example, if you have favorite foods, i-message nyo lang, i-comment nyo lang, ano yung mga favorite foods nyo na you want to know kung magkano yung carb content. Kasi we don't promote calorie counting. Ano yung calorie counting? Calorie counting is simply pag-iisip or kinakount mo, binibilang mo yung amount of calories that you need. So, yung typical example niyan, kapag ang isang 70 kilogram man, yung lalaki na 70 kilogram, yung allowance actually niya for calories in a day is about, given yung physical activity niya is somewhat general, hindi masyadong hectic yung schedule, hindi rin masyadong lax, no? Merong moderate, minimal to moderate physical activity. And then, yung ano natin dyan, yung kailangan natin dyan, sabihin noon, yung 2,000 calories na yan, around 1,000 to even up to 1,200, puro carbohydrate yan. That's why if you imagine yung isang plato, yung merong niyang malaking rice and then meron pang vegetable na side dish na puro carbohydrates din, although better than rice, pero if it's already an add-on sa rice, grabe na yan. And then you have a little dessert, and then konti-konting meat, and then very little fats. But what we see now, it's not good. We follow that for the last 50 years. We follow that here in the Philippines for the last 30 years kasi nga medyo late tayo. We've been following that for at least 3 decades. And so far, anong nangyari? The rise of those lifestyle diseases, sobra-sobrang taas. Sobra-sobrang taas. Good afternoon again to each and every one of you who are watching. Thank you very much, my family and friends, especially Ma'am Pinky Agitas Lamera. Thank you. Good afternoon. So, eto, yung importante, i-lower natin yung carbohydrates. So, hindi natin kailangan i-count lahat-lahat ng kinakain natin. But if we have to count, no, especially sa beginners na hindi pa automatic ang pagkain ng low carb, you have to count the calories or the grams of those food items na galing sa carbohydrates. So, ano ang kinakaiba ng ketogenic diet at ng low carbohydrate diet? Okay. So, low carbohydrate diet, kasi sa literature, sinasabi nila na hindi daw masyadong effective yung low carb diet. Hindi effective kasi yung ginagamit nilang low, yung kanilang measurement of what is low is actually still high. Kasi nga, normal sa atin, 200 to 300 grams of carbohydrates. Ano ba ang 200 to 300 grams of carbohydrates? Mga 1, 2, 3, 4. Mga 6 na cup ng rice. 4 cups of rice, 6 cups of rice. That's 300, mga around 300 grams of carbohydrates na yan. It sounds so much, but actually, sa normal na typical na lalaking Pinoy, 2 cups of rice per meal. That's already 300 grams. Hindi pa na-add dyan yung soft drinks na kasabay niyan, yung dessert na kasabay niyan, pati yung side dish, o especially prutas, yung fruits. Kasi ina-add on natin yung fruits. Akala natin yung fruits is all good and innocent. At saka akala mo kapag kumakain ka ng fruits, parang akala mo magiging healthy ka na at mo-offset kung ano man yung mga junk food na kinakain mo. No, fruits is only okay if taken at the right time and taken alone with counting na sinasama mo na sa iyong counting ng carbohydrates. But if it's taken as an excess, as an add-on, it's not good. I'm so sorry. It's not good. There's only very little fruits that we can eat so much na hindi tayo mag-worry. These are avocado, yung mga berries na hindi naman uso sa Pilipinas. So, might as well focus on avocado. We also have yung mature na coconut, yung laeng, yung coconut meat na medyo matigas na. So, I would like to I have here. So, we have Zalrai from Socor. We also have, so ano yung dapat kainin? Si Dude Sarmento, anong dapat kainin? Yes. So, to be safe, no? To be safe, yung pwede natin kainin actually, yung regular ulam natin. Yung ulam natin, itlog, baboy, karne, isda, kahit yung, anong tawag dyan, daing. Yes, dried fish. Di ba natakot tayo sa salt? But actually, yung asin, at saka yung water, hindi yun magsastock sa katawan natin. Hindi sila makakakos ng high blood, hindi sila makakasira ng kidney, as long as hindi mo pinapares ito sa carbohydrates tulad ng kanin. So, for Filipinos, for typical Filipino na meals, yung pinakasimple yung simplihan lang natin, remove mo lang yung rice. I-change mo lang with vegetables. Kung walang vegetables, ulam lang. Idoblehin mo yung ulam. Yes, I know, sasabihin nyo, baka medyo mahal or it will be expensive. But actually, hindi. Kasi hindi mo rin makakain yung ulam ng sobrang dami. Not because na hindi maganda na hindi ka kakain ng ulam, but because actually, kapag walang rice, kapag walang carbohydrates, your body will naturally heal itself in a way na kapag kumakain ka, mafe-feel mo na you've had enough. Malalaman mo na tama na yung kinakain mo. Kahit hindi ka pa busog na busog, kahit hindi yung sobrang bigat ng tiyan, hindi yung sobrang laki ng tiyan, you will feel, sabi natin, satisfied. Hindi ka, yung akala natin umay, kapag kumakain tayo ng lechon, di ba? Kain-kain tayo ng lechon. But it will reach to a point na hindi mo na kayang kainin yung lechon kasi nakakaumay na. And actually, that is a point that our body is telling us that we are already eating enough. We've had enough. It is a feeling of satiation. Satiated ka na. Satisfied ka na. Kasi, yung carbohydrates, yung trigger niya sa brain natin, yung pleasure, yung sarap lang pero walang satisfaction. Kaya kapag kumakain ka ng merong rice, busog ka na in a way na sobrang sakit na ng tiyan mo, pero yung utak mo, sinasabi mo, gusto ko pa sana, kaya lang hindi na kaya ng tiyan ko. But if you remove the rice, try to do it. You can do some experiment. No? Pwede kang mag-experiment na kapag kumakain ka ng ulam lang, and kung gusto ka, pwede mong sabayan ng vegetables. But this, I want to emphasize, vegetables are optional. Hindi siya must. For those na hindi kumakain ng vegetable, okay lang. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Pwede nyo i-replace ng eggs, like hard-boiled eggs. You just cut it into small parts, liitan nyo lang, and then sobrang liit na parang rice na siya. And that's the time na you eat it together with ulam. Kasi kailangan natin ng rice na sanay tayo to neutralize our ulam, yung viand natin. Kasi yung pangluto natin, yung paborito nating adobo, yung paborito nating, ano yun? Yung mga paksiw na isda, lahat na lang pinapaksiw. Kung sa Cebuano, ano yun? Inununan, no? Inununan. So, in Ilonggo, it's pinaksyo. Paksiw yun. Masyado siyang savory, masyado siyang flavorful, na we need something to counter it. So, kapag kina-counter natin with something that is bland, something na hindi masyadong flavorful, neutralize. So, the safest actually is egg. So, shout out to Miss Rosel, one of our active members sa Life Without Rice. They are a family of 6 members. So, every mealtime, nakaka-consume sila ng 36 eggs. Kasi yung egg nila, meron siyang album, that egg is our rice. Yun. And they've been doing it for 3 years. And all of their blood laboratory exams, yung blood values nila, are all perfectly normal. There was even a time na meron nagka-COVID positive, but it's all asymptomatic. Parang wala lang. Dumaan lang siya na parang wala lang. So, yes, eggs are safe. Hindi mo kailangang limitahin kasi hindi ka makaka-overeat as long as you don't eat it with yung sinasabi natin confounding factor. Kasi yun yung nagdi-disrupt, sinisira niyan yung normal process ng brain functioning natin because it gives us too much pleasure that we can control. Yes, the too much pleasure is something that we have to emphasize kasi yung effect actually niya, tulad ng drugs na nakaka-addict, tulad ng cigarettes, tulad ng alcohol, that it's causing addiction. There was even this experiment na between rats, yung mga rats, ginawa nilang addict sa heroin at saka addict din sa sugar. And then at the end of the experiment, when they were already deprived of both heroin and sugar, at saka binigyan nila heroin and sugar, alam mo kung anong pinili ng mga rats na yon? They went directly straight sa sugar. They even prefer sugar than heroin. So you can see kung ano ka damaging, kung ano yung effect ng sugar, that it's made those rats more addictive to sugar than heroin. So for those na sinasabi na medyo nahihirapan silang mag-let go, it's a very understandable. I myself is kiniklaim ko yan. Aminado ako. I am a recovering sugar addict. That's why I am doing this. I am doing this to try to help others as well. And doing so also gives me a sense of accountability. Kasi alam ko I am trying to help others. So hindi pwede na those who are depending on me, on what I say, will just feel parang cheated when they learn that I myself is not doing it on my own. So I am doing my best to walk the talk, preach and do what I preach so that lahat tayo sabay-sabay, we can be all healthy. So we have one question. Doktora, brown rice okay lang? So we discussed it a little when we started. Brown rice, kung sinasabi natin if this is white rice and this is the level of no rice, or for example yung favorite namin cabbage rice, yes, cabbage, yung repolyo, kinakat namin yon, maliit, sobrang liit, and then some also do it like with garlic, so parang fried rice na siya, sinosote. Yun yung ginagawa nila ng rice. You can put it in a cup and then you put it and then you eat your normal viand and ulam. Actually, parang rice talaga siya. Yun yung favorite namin. Cabbage rice. Some will do broccoli and some others cauliflower. Parang uso yung cauliflower. But for me, cauliflower, it's not sustainable. Hindi siya ganun. Hindi ko ganun kagusto yung texture niya at saka matrabaho. Kasi you have to crush it, you have to grate it. Whereas yung repolyo, chop, chop, chop lang, or if you want it whole, so okay. So going back, if this is white rice, nga napakataas ng level ng sugar sa katawan mo if you eat it, and this is the cabbage rice. Alam mo kung nasan yung brown rice? Nandito lang siya, ah. Sobrang liit lang yung difference nila lang white rice. So it's up to you. So it's up to you. But then, yung sabi natin, yung major topic na sinabi natin ngayon, it's important that we know how to count our carbohydrates. So, carbohydrates. So, in general, since we understand na parang wala namang difference yung white rice and brown rice, a half cup of rice, yes, half cup lang, is actually already 20 grams of carbohydrates. So, ketogenic diet is a stricter form of low carb. Ito yung form ng low carb diet na hindi sosobra dapat sa 20 grams yung carbs mo. At saka yung saan ka kukuha ng energy mo kung hindi ka kakain ng carbs, 'di ba? So you will compensate your need for calories, yung kailangan mo for energy. It will come from fats and proteins. But between fats and proteins, it should be more fats than proteins. Hindi akala natin kung it's more fats, baka isipin nyo parang maglalaklak ka na ng oil or ng butter. Hindi. Actually, a tablespoon lang, a tablespoon of your oil, yung equivalent na niyan, parang isang hiwa na ng karne. So that's how energy dense our oil, our healthy fats. Yun, ganun sila ka-energy dense. So, for example, what do you want to eat? For example, you can put a cup of cabbage, pwedeng dalawang slice ng manok, and then, or karne, or isda, and then, pwede mo siyang lutuin sa butter. Or you can put a half of avocado, and then, pwede kang mag-drizzle. Lagyan mo ng coconut oil or olive oil. Yun na yun. 'Di ba? Hindi siya ganun ka-oily. Akala lang natin sobrang oily na siya. And eggs. Eggs as is our favorite. Yung egg yolk, especially yung egg yolk, it's one of the most nutritious, natural, healthy kind of fat. So, wag matakot. Huwag matakot as long as you don't pair it with rice, no? So, yung brown rice, pwede rin if you have a 50-gram allowance kasi yung allowance natin for carbohydrate, yung allowance natin for carbohydrate in a day for low carb lang ha, is up to 50. So actually, kung gusto mo, yung allowance mo na 50 na yon, kung gusto mo siya i-spend with rice, so it's okay. It's up to you. Pwede, rice lang. Half cup of rice for the whole day na. And the one thing also that you can limit your carbohydrate intake is doing intermittent fasting. So ano yung intermittent fasting? So that is limiting your food intake to a shorter period of time. Hindi pwedeng dinner at breakfast ha. Yung breakfast sa morning 7 and then no eat during the day and then dinner at 7. Better if shorter yung span of time where you are watching. So, as much as possible, breakfast and lunch or lunch and dinner. But actually, technically, breakfast is just the first meal that you eat after you are fasting. So, yung sinasabi namin, I do breakfast at 5 in the afternoon. So, or I do breakfast at 4. I even do breakfast at sundown. Yes, sundown. Kasi minsan, kapag kumakain, like now, what time is it na? 6 o'clock, I haven't eaten. The last I ate was last night, 9 in the evening. Kasi I am with my sister and we are somewhat enjoying the company kasi minsan lang kami nakikita. So we ate until 9 in the evening and until now, hindi pa ako nakakain. Even water, medyo limited yung water intake ko now. I only drank half of this water for the day. So, but I'm okay. Hindi naman ako mukhang nangangayayat, di ba? Sa totoo nga lang, meron pa akong pwedeng maluse. So, yes. It's not necessary na kailangan mong kumain most times of the day. And how about other carbohydrates? Yung bread, sliced bread. Sliced bread, isang slice ng bread. That's actually around 20 grams na. So, 2 slices of bread, yung carbohydrate na allowance mo for the day, solved na. And how about lumpia? Alam nyo ba na ang isang lumpia wrapper, that's already 12 grams? So if you're on keto, lumpia wrapper, siomai wrapper, molo wrapper, those carbohydrates, kahit isang sobrang nipis lang yon, that is actually already 12 grams of carbohydrates. So, if you're on keto, parang 1.5 lumpia lang kasi yung laman niya is okay eh. It's all meat and cheese, so okay, it's so nice. But what you put inside, medyo ano talaga, you have to limit. So we have questions. I said we will entertain questions, di ba? Zalray, nauna si Mini Thea. What can you advise sa mga breastfeeding moms like me na nag-LCIF po? Thank you. So, sinasabi natin na yung iba, be careful. Kasi, if there's only 2 episodes in a lifetime of a person na hindi siya kailangan mag-diet, in a sense, yung mga nililimit mo yung kain mo, it's during the growing years of children na hindi obese, hindi overweight. But the moment they are overweight, the moment they are obese, they should also limit their intake, especially of carbohydrates. And during pregnancy and breastfeeding, because another person, another human being is relying its sustenance, its food from you. So especially during pregnancy. But how about LCIF? LCIF, low carbohydrate IF, and intermittent fasting during breastfeeding. With intermittent fasting, hindi kailangan strict na kailangan ka mo follow, kailangan ka mag-follow ng schedule like 18-6 or 16-8, yung mga ganon. You don't need to do that, but what you can do is be mindful of what your body is telling you. Hindi ka kailangan maging watchful waiting sa time with IF, but you have to be sensible in a sense na hindi ka rin kailangan kumain kung hindi ka pa gutom. But because actually, if you're already what we call appetite corrected, yung na-correct na yung appetite mo, your body will tell you when you need to eat. And hindi mo kailangan mag-count. Counting is just there for the beginners, for starting, when you are still starting. But when you are already appetite corrected, you can feel na kailangan mo nang kumain. And how about low carb? Low carb for me, walang kontra yan. Kahit sino. Kahit pregnant, kahit children, they can do low carb. Bakit? Because low carb, actually, hindi siya diet. Hindi siya revised diet. Hindi siya parang sinasabi nating yung pagkain na kailangan nating matutunan. Because actually, low carbohydrate meals, low carbohydrate diet, yun yung natural food intake natin in the wild. Noong hunters and gatherers pa yung mga katawan natin. So, ano bang low carbohydrate diet? It's actually any food na makikita natin sa wet market. Yung all the vegetables there is and all the animal meat products. Yun lang kasimple. Devoid of processed foods. Walang mga cheese curls, walang mga soda, walang mga kung ano-anong sweetened desserts, walang bread. Yes, yung bread hindi natural sa human diet yan. Grains. Yes, yung grains are seeds. And we are actually not this, we are seeds yan, di ba? Palay. Yung palay, seeds yan. And actually, we are not supposed to be eating too much seeds. Kung kakain man tayo, very minimal lang. Very minimal. And the grains, all these starchy foods, hindi sila sustainable for our health in the long run if we wish to live longer. Merong mga blue zones na sinasabi nila kumakain sila ng wheat, ng mga ibang grainy products. But they are very physically active. And what they have are not GMOs. These are what they call wild grains, no? Wild rice. Yung mga naturally grown without fertilizers, without refinement. So hindi sila white. Yung merong pang-husk, matigas, full of fiber, full of nutrients. And seldom we can see that. Wala na yan halos ngayon. I think Chloe has a question. What's your question, Chloe? Chloe is a very good friend of mine from Japan and is starting to coach other friends and families also to do this way of life, no? Another question, is it okay to cheat once in a while ng pansit bihon? Fave ko po kasi yon. Walang mabili ng replacement like shirataki noodle sa place ko. Thanks po and more power to LC dieters. So, Zelrai, sasabihin ko sa'yo, noon, before this way of life, hindi talaga ako mahilig sa rice. Pero ano yung hindi ko mahindian? Yung mga bihon din. Bihon, sotanghon, pansit, lahat sila. Hindi ako makahindi niyan. But right now, upon knowing what they do to our body, hindi na talaga ako kumakain yan. And if you do, yung parang isang roll ng tinidor, yun, isang ganon, actually, yung amount niya is you already limit mo for carbohydrate intake in the day, na ma-max out mo na. Ganon siya kadami yung carbs. So, what are our pasta replacement? Meron kami, I think there's around, walang shirataki, di ba? Yung for those who are listening, shirataki noodles, it's like coming from algae. Para siyang gelatin lang. So, it's halos devoid of carbohydrates. So, para lang siyang 199% water na kapag kinakain mo, yung feeling mo, parang may noodles ka. Pero actually, wala siyang carbohydrate content. So, yung ni-replace namin for pasta, we can have egg. Yes, eggs na naman. Pina-flatten, and then sinaslice namin into strips. So, you can have your pasta na. And the moment you don't garnish it, and when you put egg, you can try to put a little vinegar. Kasi yung vinegar, kinukuha niya yung parang yung egg, distinct egg na taste, kinukuha niya. So, it will be very bland, very basic yung flavor na kahit anong ilagay mo na pasta sauce, na-acquire lang niya. Another one would be cabbage and Chinese pechay. We slice it into strips na mahahaba. And then toss it, maybe steam a little or just have it boiled and drain. Nawawala na yung oxalates niya. Yung oxalates, yung nagpapabitter ng mga plants, and it's also not good for human consumption in large amounts. So cooking it decreases the oxalate content. So when you do that, nakukuha yung pait na flavor, and at the same time, naso-soften siya, and then you can add your favorite sauce or kung ano man. Kung gusto mong magkaroon ng parang pansit canton, birthday pansit, so you can add all the ingredients, especially yung meat. What else? Alam mo yung gourd patola? Yes, is it patola? Yes, you remove the inside na mga seeds, and then what will leave yung parang medyo hard part na. You can strip it. Ano mo lang siya, i-grate mo lang yung parang para mahaba. Magiging ano na yun. You can eat it fresh, and you can also steam it for a while. Sobrang sarap. We tried using that using just fresh, no? Hindi namin nga niluto eh. Wala siyang lasa talaga. And we made a Spanish sardines pasta or tuna pasta. Since medyo malangsa, mas nakahide niya yung flavor. Sobrang sarap. You just put real mayonnaise, and you can make your own mayonnaise. 1 to 2 minutes lang. Alam mo bang makakagawa ka na ng, ng mayonnaise on your own? You just need a handheld mixer. Sobrang sarap. And you can even taste it. You can even garnish it to taste like if medyo maasim or medyo maalat. Very, very nice. And another thing that we use, sometimes, aminado ako, kasi laking instant din ako, I sometimes miss instant noodles. Parang weakness ko talaga yon. So, yung hindi yon maganda, di ba? We know that it's not masarap. But the flavor itself, it's something that I miss once in a while. Maybe once every 3 months, kumakain ako ng instant noodles without the noodles. Yung seasoning lang niya. And then what I put is eggs. You just stir it with eggs. Sobrang sarap. So, kapag sinestir mo, hayaan mo siyang medyo maluto para medyo meron siyang strip. So, yung effect niya, parang yung bird's nest soup na maraming strands of eggs. Yun lang, nasosolve na yung instant noodles cravings ko. Kasi yun talaga yung weakness ko eh. Gusto ko talaga ng instant noodles before. But I've never had real noodles. Other possible pasta replacement, yung sinasabi ng yung zucchini, yung parang kapatid ng cucumber. So there's also what we call zoodles. Zoodles. So it's zucchini noodles. So you can still strip it. You just use yung ginagawa nating pang buko salad, yung pang strip na yon. You can do that. Sige, Chloe, do you have your question na ba? Thank you so much for coming, Sir Bien. Belated happy birthday po. Maraming salamat po for being so active and inspiring. Sir Bien is a good friend of mine, a new friend of mine na diabetic. He is on medications, but he started incorporating this way of life, fasting, and at the same time low carb meals. And day by day, he can see the lowering of blood sugar. Makikita mo kung gaano ka-fluctuate. I feel sad a little na even before I learned about this, kapag meron akong kinukonsultang mga pasyente before, tapos nagsasabi sa akin, what do I need to do? Do I need to change my diet? So, being trained sa isang medical profession, sa isang profession which never gave emphasis on lifestyle, sinasabi ko rin, ha, hindi kailangan, you just take this medicine. Sinasabi ko lang noon, as long since may high blood ka na, forever ka na magde-depend dito. So, you just eat what you have anyway. You already have this medicine. This will be your partner in life. But and I feel so bad. Sorry, I feel so bad. I want to say sorry for all the patients that I've seen before during a time when I don't know any better. Na if I see you again now, actually hindi ko kayo bibigyan ng gamot agad-agad. I will try to look first what you eat, and maybe we can learn from that, and then we try to improve your eating habits. Observe it for 2 weeks to 4 weeks, and then see for yourself, bababa yung blood sugar, bababa yung blood pressure mo, and it will be something na you won't need to depend on medicine anymore. Pwede tayo. I've seen it myself. I've seen it firsthand with my first degree relatives, with my closest friends who've I known all my life, from 11 medicines, from 6 medicines na minimaintain daily, ngayon wala nang minimaintain just because of this lifestyle. So, kung sinasabi mong parang mahal naman na doblehin ko yung ulam ko kasi wala na akong rice, imagine what you will need to buy if ever you will be needing medications. Sobrang mahal ng medications. In addition, insurance. Meron na ba kayong insurance? Even if you are healthy, I still agree na kailangan meron tayong medical insurance because there's still accidents and we are not attracting that. But there is greater peace of mind kapag may insurance ka. Ako noon, hindi rin ako naniniwala dyan. But growing up, I think as adulting comes to you, nakikita mo talaga. And I appreciate the value of these insurance. But the best insurance that you can get, the best investment that you will have is your investment to yourself. And how do you do that? You do what you need to do in order to be the healthiest version of yourself. Because whatever you do, kung sino man mga mahal mo sa buhay, you can only spend so much time with them unless mawawala ka at ikaw mismo magiging sakitin. Of course, we don't want that. Alam natin na yung ating families and friends, we don't want to become a burden to them. If we want to be someone who can help them. So, for those of you who are watching right now, thank you very much. And I hope you get a little from this, no? And don't be afraid to share this to your friends. Kahit Chloe is a very good friend of mine. Sinasabi niya parate na, sabi ko, post ka lang dyan. We will plant a seed of thought. You will never know who will get inspired to your journey. So, KB Palermo, hi Doc, I love eating pizza. How many slices are allowed? If you are using regular bread as crust, you can only eat one slice in a day because that one slice is already around 20 depending on the thickness, no? It can even be up to 40 to 50 grams na, or even much more if it's a thick crust pizza. Thin crust, maybe 1.5 slice. Thick crust, just one slice. But if you do a low carb version of crust, if you do it your own, or if you eat just the toppings of the pizza, wag mo na kainin yung crust. You can eat the whole plate. You just don't eat the bread, the crust that's down there. Before, hindi talaga ako mahilig sa bread and rice. So, even before I learned this way of life, kumakain talaga ako ng whole pizza without the crust. And after I eat, you will see that piles of bread, of crust na nakapile lang. And maybe that's the reason also why I feel so lucky na kahit parang I discovered this way of life after 3 decades, wala pa akong sakit na sobrang severe other than my allergies, and yes, weight gain also. And comes weight gain is my self-esteem, so hindi ako masyadong confident, although wala naman talaga akong pakialam. I'm okay. I've always been happy kahit mataba ako. But knowing this, it gives me a security, especially for my loved ones, for my mom, who is already aging at the age of 65. Akala namin noon by the age of 65, parang sobrang tanda na. But for her, in this lifestyle, she is at the top of her health, and she is doing really good. And we can say na she is not affected as the usual aging that we noticed before. So, if you will eat together with the carbs, you can just eat one slice for the pizza. But if you don't eat the bread down there. You just eat the toppings, cheese, meat, bell peppers, olives. They're all very good. You drizzle it with ano yan? Spice with your sauce, your hot sauce. You can eat the whole plate as long as you don't eat the carbs. So I think I was able to answer your question. Another question, bakit po nagpapalpitate ako pag 16:8 IF? Again, if you have those conditions, try to look ano bang kinakain mo. Sometimes kasi we are just doing fasting. Like 16:8 is just fasting. Do you also do low carb? Because for some, IF alone is enough and they can eat all the carbs that they can eat during window. But for me, especially I notice no, for those who are not very much physically active, those who don't do so much exercise, mas grabe yung effect ng sugar intake nila. So, as for me, I have to do fasting. Yung 16, very minimum sa akin yon kasi hindi yun enough sa akin. If I go just 16, mag-gain weight talaga ako. So, at minimum, I have to do 18 to 19 hours in a day. Yun lang talaga yung standard ko so that I will maintain my weight. And then, during my eating window, I only eat low carb. If I don't do low carb, if I eat like a bar of chocolate, 2, 3 days, I'll be bloated na. All the sugar, all the water, all the salt, it will be kept in my body. Magbo-bloat talaga ako. I can gain 2 kilos instantly in a day whenever I take something sugary. And that sugar, that water and salt na nire-retain mo, nagre-retention ka whenever you eat sugar. Yes, yung sugar po ang may kasalanan kapag dahil nag-salt retention and water retention tayo. And if that happens, it will be a burden. Sobrang nakakapagod 'yan sa ating heart, sa ating cardiovascular system, and that can cause palpitation. For those who are not very familiar, palpitation is the subjective feeling. Yun yung subjective sense mo na nafe-feel mo yung heartbeat mo. Because normally, you don't get to feel your heartbeat unless ilalagay mo talaga dyan. But if you feel it, so that's already palpitation. That's your heart working more than its usual work. So, again, normal po ba nasakit ang sikmura sa nag-LCIF? 2 weeks na po ako nag-LCIF. Ngayon lang sumakit. Thank you po. So, Annabelle, try to see again, are you doing a strict low carb? If not, try to see, baka may hidden carbs yan. Yes, hindi ako mapapagod magsasabi na it's actually just the sugar. Sometimes we thought we are already eating low carb enough, but sometimes it is not that low. Try to see your condiments, baka yung ginagamit mo na mga spreads, mga mayo, baka hindi sila yung pure egg yolk mayo. Yung pure egg yolk mayo, meron lang yon yung QP, or sometimes others pronounce it as QPI. Pero QP mayo, it's egg yolk mayo, so it's full fat. It has the least amount of carbohydrates. So, yun yung safest. So, try to see. Because it is the sugar that's causing damage to our lining. Try to also see, are you taking analgesics, yung mga pain relievers, it's also cause stress. If not, are you sleeping enough? Because lack of sleep can cause rise of stress hormones in our body that can still damage our lining. And avoid lang for a start. Kung hindi pa sanay, if you have already gastritis there na sumasakit, maybe you can try to limit muna yung coffee intake mo and other. Try to do your fasting period as clean as possible, meaning you take just plain water and some salt if necessary. So, quinoa, Serbian, quinoa is still part of grain. So, kung nandito yung white rice, brown rice, yung quinoa mga nandito. So, maybe if you want to eat quinoa, you consider it as rice. You consider it as still regular rice na you use half cup or less kapag kinakain mo. Kasi yung tragedy kasi when eating these alternatives, akala natin kasi alternative sila, pwede na tayong makakain ng sobra-sobra. But no, if you are thinking of doing that, you try to eat it still the amount of the normal eating, which is you have to still limit, especially that quinoa is still grain. Grain pa rin siya. So it's still full of carbohydrates. But yes, better than rice because sabi natin not everything is created equal. Not all carbs are created equal. So yung quinoa has more fiber and has more nutrients and has lower glycemic index than rice. But eventually, it can still pile up and it can shoot up depending on the amount that you will eat, no. So amount matters, no, depending on how much you will eat. So Sir Bien, happy birthday again, ha. Sobrang saya ko. And Miss Regina Bumanglag, one of my favorite members of the groups right now. Sobrang endear sa akin yan. Sobrang love na love ko yan. So I hope you get to be very happy kasi si Mama Regina, grabe yung weight loss journey niya. So sometimes even for me, kapag we've been so big for so long, kahit pumayat na tayo, yung confidence natin sa sarili, hindi pa rin ganun, parang naiwanan. So we have to claim it. Ha? Our health, our improvement sa ating self, we have to claim it and we have to give ourselves a pat on the back. We have to savor it kasi ginawa natin yon for our own sake, for our loved one's sake. So we have to celebrate that and be happy about it. So Miss Evelyn, once you are in ketosis state, you will suddenly cheat with high carb. It will give negative effect in your body like sugar rush po. How deadly is it in our health? Yes, it's very, very, sabi natin delikado. Because when you are in ketosis, hindi ka na sensitive sa insulin. So the moment and in ketosis, it's sabi natin, it's a fast mimicking diet. Para kang nagpa-fasting. So, kapag nasa ketosis ka and bigla-bigla kang kumain ng high carb intake, all of the nutrients na nasa system mo, it will be removed and it will be put inside the cells. And that's the reason na merong tinatawag nating parang refeeding syndrome. Nagre-refeeding syndrome ka. And it could be very dangerous kasi yung mga electrolytes na nasa system mo, mawawala sila bigla kasi ipapasok sila ng insulin towards your cells, including glucose. So, kaya meron yung sinasabi ng iba na parang nahihilo sila and sometimes yung iba nga hinihimatay and they wondered, kumain ako ng sugary foods and yet hinimatay ako. It's because the sugar was rushed inside, was pulled immediately from the system because of the insulin effect. Yun yung effect ng insulin. And not just that. If you do that, spike, hindi natin alam how it can damage you. It is different from person to person. But it can lead to many tumor genesis na pakonti-konti kasi nagso-spike. So, parang yung regulation ng system mo, hindi siya normal. So, it can go alright. Pwede talaga siyang bababa. And for those diabetics, for example, who have been on low carb at saka bigla-bigla mag-high carb, it's delikado because ketoacidosis may occur. What is ketoacidosis? Ketoacidosis is the presence of both elevated ketones, yung energy form na coming from fats, and at the same time, elevated glucose, yung sugar. So if they exist at the same time at a very high level, it can lead to DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis, and that can be deadly, that can lead to coma. That's why I posted some time ago na you don't do it half-heartedly. If you do it, commit to yourself, no? My question, I have a relative who's now taking insulin shot. Should go hypoglycemic if dieting daw. Do know what kind of diet though? Yes, kasi yung nga sinasabi natin, the discovery of insulin made us very complacent of our food. Sinabi natin, just because we have insulin, pwede na tayong kumain whatever we want. But actually, hindi kailangan ang insulin ang mag-adjust. We can adjust it. We should be the one adjusting. Of course, she has to do it with the supervision of his doctors. But especially for those nag-insulin, yes, may delikado if you do low carb and insulin. It's because yung insulin shots na binigay sa'yo, na prescribe sa'yo, is based on a diet that is high carb. Kasi, parang inassume na you are not capable of doing low carb. Inassume na lang na hindi ka capable na kumain ng low carb. That's why they gave you a high dose of insulin. But with proper guidance, with proper medical supervision, insulin can be slowly withdrawn from, for example, 10 units every meal. So when you do, for example, 10 units every meal with 2 cups of rice, so you can imagine, maybe you will need half of it if you will just eat half rice. And the moment you will do another half cup of rice, it can lower down to 2 or 3. And eventually, if you don't eat it, you will no longer need insulin. For those who are type 1 diabetics, yung wala talagang organic insulin sa kanilang katawan, they are those, you can watch Fat the documentary and The Magic Pill in Netflix. These are good documentation of actual people living under low carb and ketogenic lifestyle, even with type 1 diabetes, and those with epileptic seizure now were healed, were cured, were maintained on low carb diet. And the insulin that they inject on themselves is just the basal long acting insulin, yung lang one time for the rest of the day. Kasi yung insulin natin, kailangan hindi yan pwede zero. So, dapat meron yung basal level para sa growth ng hair, ng growth ng skin natin, normal functioning. But the spikes that we give every after meal, yun yung hindi natural. So, because we are already convinced na we eat carbohydrates every meal. But when we stop eating carbohydrates every meal, that's also a very, very good time na you can wean from insulin. So, I think we are almost running out of time. We still have, thank you so, so much for watching. Sir Bien, thank you for the appreciation. Miss Annabelle, Januario, Jessie, thank you so much. Mga ano to, ka-EF ko to. Kasi nung October, we have a group na extended fasters. So, hindi ako nag-extended fasting kami. Almost every 3 days, fasting 3 days, and then eat for a couple of days, and then fast again. So, we built this little group, and anybody else is welcome to join. We are having special family occasions the first half of October, but the second half of October, I will go back to fasting and extended fasting. So I will post about it. And if you want to join and if you want to have the support that you need to start this way of life, you can start first by reading the book. And for those who don't have that time to read the book, just watch the videos I uploaded in YouTube. You can learn from there. So what veggies should you avoid? Yung veggies na i-avoid natin, Doc Nico de la Cruz, thank you for watching. Veggies, everything that's going below ground are actually high in carbohydrates. So yung root crops. Kasi yung root crops hindi naman talaga vegetable 'yun. But for us Filipinos, lahat ng tumutubo para akala natin vegetables. Yung pumpkin, I was corrected, it's a fruit, hindi siya vegetables, yung squash. So, kalabasa, fruits, we try to avoid pa din. Yung fruit allowed, again, avocado. So, for vegetables, yung cruciferous, yung mga matubig, ma-fiber, but low in calories. So, yun yun. Kasi kung isipin natin lahat ng i-avoid, medyo marami, but we can emphasize on what we can eat. So, cabbage, repolyo, no? Repolyo, pechay, asparagus, medyo expensive nga lang. So, any green leafy, alugbate, talbos ng kamote, malunggay, all those, the more local, the green leafy ones, the better. Bell pepper, yung tomato and onions, medyo carbs yun, moderate amount. So, you just eat some slice. As long as hindi kalahating kilo or tatlong onions or tatlong tomato yung kakainin mo, much better. And if you eat tomatoes, better if it's the green ones kasi lesser yung calorie niya. So, but you have to also consider oxalates, no? Very high in oxalates, yung mga very bitter like spinach. You can't actually eat a truckload of that kasi malilimit din. So, if you, again, yung vegetables natin, it's optional. Hindi siya parang necessary na meron talaga. If you just need something to neutralize yung meat mo, yung eggs mo, you just put a little vegetables, yung greens. That's already enough. And if you want some nutrition na para variety, you can eat like liver. Liver is full of nutrients. You just don't eat it so much kasi yung liver, nandun dyan nakastore yung glycogen, which is a storage form of carbohydrate. So, basta hindi naman ganun kadami, it's okay. You can eat it. I think we are running out of time. Thank you very much for watching. So, I will try to be live again this coming Monday. and also Friday again next week. So if there's anything more that you want to know, you can continue to follow my page, Dr. Josephine Grace Chua Rojo. And also for those who are starting pa lang and want to have a starting their life, a life without rice, that is of low carbohydrate kind of life, you are free and very much welcome to join our Facebook group rather, for riceless meals and inspirations. It is life without rice. And for those who also want to pair it with fasting, kasi hindi enough. For me, it's not enough to do just low carb. You have to do low carb and at the same time some degree of fasting, minimum 12 hours a day. So you can add or join our Facebook group, Low Carb Feasting. Yes, Fiesta. Low Carb Feasting and Fasting Community. It's a growing number of community, and I hope everyone will get to join. Add your friends, add your family. The more, the better. We can go. We can proceed with a healthier, with a more vibrant future ng mga Pinoy, mga Asians na hindi na dependent on rice. I think that would be all for now. Stay low carb, guys. Stay low carb and stay safe. Bye-bye.